No matter what happens this season, if Manchester City win a treble and Pep Guardiola wins his second treble in his football management, then Man City and him are not the greatest in the history of the English game. This cannot happen. Hello and welcome to Buzz Football, back with yet another video, and I was ready for a quiet night tonight. I'm not going to lie, I've got Newcastle Brighton on just in the corner watching that game. It's currently 2-1 and I thought, nice relax. Go on Twitter, check what everybody's saying about this game. Everybody is talking about how Man City are the greatest English football team of all time and Pep's the greatest of all time. Absolute bollocks. And if you want to know why it's bollocks and you want to know other footballing opinions, like and subscribe to the bloody video. Thank you very much. If they win this treble, they're not the best English team of all time. And we're going to use a comparison between this Man City team and the team they are being compared with, which is of course the Manchester United side of 1999. They're also on a treble as well. Okay, let's just discuss comparison between now and the comparison between 1999. Okay, people say, oh, English football's technically better now than what it was 30 years ago. Everything is technically better now than what it was 30 years ago. You cannot use that as a comparison. Films of 30 years ago are not better technology wise, special effects wise. Avengers films are far greater, in terms of special effects, than the films of 30, 40 years ago. They just simply are, right? But I would still rather watch the films of 30, 40 years ago than I would now, because it was a much simpler time back then. That's the first point. Second point, let's compare where English football was in 1999 to where it is now. Right now, the Premier League is the most profitable league in the world. It's the best league in the world. It's got the best managers in the world, and Pep is one of the best managers in the world, alongside Jurgen Klopp, for example. He just simply is, right? And I still think Klopp is up there, by the way. English clubs have been dominating Europe for the last 7 or 8 years, right? Ever since Liverpool got to a Champions League final in 2018, there's only been one season when an English club hasn't made a Champions League final, and that was 1920, which was Bayern Munich PSG. Ever since then, an English club has made the final. So quite frankly, English teams have had a pretty good run in Europe for the last few years. When Manchester United won the Champions League in 1999, it had been 14 years since an English club had been to a Champions League or European Cup final. Talking Blackburn Rovers, we're talking Newcastle, we're talking Manchester United previously then, we're talking Arsenal, I believe, as well, we're talking Leeds United. All these teams had tried in Europe and failed because the Premier League, as well as was doing at the time, was nowhere near as profitable a league as Serie A was, for example. Let's not forget that Serie A had basically the monopoly of any player that they wanted in 1998-99. They had the best players in the world. They had Zidane, they had Ronaldo, they had Maldini, Shevchenko was just going to AC Milan around about that point. So Manchester United won the Champions League in an era when English clubs were destined to fail in Europe. Man City should be winning the Champions League. We've been saying for years and years and years, this is City's time, this is City's chance. They weren't saying a lot about Manchester United in 1999, they weren't, because Manchester United weren't the best team in Europe. They became the best team in Europe, but Juventus were arguably a better team. Real Madrid were arguably a better team. Bayern Munich were arguably a better team. Barcelona were arguably a better team. This is an argument that I think Curtis Woodhouse made. He goes, oh, Ferguson's not the greatest of all time because he never managed the best team in Europe. But he won 2 Champions Leagues. So if he won 2 Champions Leagues without the best team in Europe, he's clearly overachieved then. Let's not forget where English football was in 1999 compared to what it is now. English football is a far more profitable organisation than what it was in 1999. It was just getting there in 1999 because Serie A was slightly declining. Second thing, and this is something that a lot of people are forgetting about here during a City loving, let's not forget the 100 breaches of financial doping that is on City's heads currently at the moment. Let's not forget that. Over 100, not 5, not 10, 100, right? And they are pushing back that date in court further and further at the moment. This Man City, the Man City hierarchy are. So let's just put that in there, right? The reason why it's been delayed is because they can't gather enough evidence to prove their case. Hence the reason why it's been delayed further and further. If they're not guilty, just prove it. It's as simple as that. Just prove that you're not guilty. You don't have to go through the little nuances. If you're not guilty, fill in the books. Just show the accounts. There you go. Problem solved. On to my second target, and we're going to talk about Pep Guardiola here. Pep Guardiola's football is outstanding. one of the best managers when it comes to playing football in the history of the game. But Pep didn't invent this whole modern football ideology. He just didn't. When people say, oh, Pep's the greatest footballing brain of all time, Pep's the greatest tactical mastermind of all time, he clearly isn't, because Pep Guardiola got it from someone. That someone was Johan Cruyff, who in turn got it from Rinus Michels. Now, for all you Philistines out there who don't know who he is, he was the man that pretty much ingrained the Ajax style of play onto the world. He was the guy that pretty much invented total football. Tiki-taka wasn't even a Pep Guardiola ideology. That was Luis Aragonés, the manager of Spain in 2008. He pretty much started this whole Spanish football revolution. He pretty much started that, and Pep carried it on, mixing that style, mixing a little bit of Marcelo Bielsa in there as well, and mixing what Johan Cruyff did, which in turn was influenced by Rinus Michels. So let's just get that out of the way. In terms of influencing English football, probably so. Not even denying that. But again, wasn't Arsene Wenger doing the same thing 30 years ago? Pass and move, little intricate little styles of play. Arsene Wenger's doing that. The difference was he was doing it with a 4-4-2. So, you know, there we go. We'll talk about Pep Guardiola as the greatest brain of all time, but people talk about him being the greatest tactician of all time, particularly in big games. Again, that is false. If Pep Guardiola was such a tactical genius, how come he is known by everybody to tactically balls it up in big moments? Even Stevie Wonder could see in the 2021 Champions League final that playing 3 number 8s was the worst decision he could have made. The only game I believe he didn't play a holding midfield in the whole season was against Burnley home, a team which they famously always batter every single time they play each other. And finally, my last point on why he isn't the greatest of all time. Pep has had it easy everywhere he's gone. He's the manager of his boyhood club who had the best player in the world, or the person who's going to become the best player in the world, and arguably the greatest midfield of all time. He went to Bayern Munich, who were European champions, have as many players as they want from the Bundesliga, couldn't win a Champions League there. And then finally he's gone to Manchester City with their millions of financial, money, and could literally just pick any player that they want for out of the league, potentially, apart from obviously from their rivals, and they can get the best striker in Europe on a very low fee because they can fiddle the books a little bit. That is the fact, allegedly. Let's compare this to the greatest manager of all time, in my opinion, which is still Sir Alex Ferguson. Sir Alex Ferguson took over a Manchester United team that were 19th in the old Division 1. Hadn't won a league title in about 20 years. Had a huge drinking culture issue. Quite frankly, looked light years ahead of their rivals Liverpool in the hunt for major honours. Sir Alex Ferguson took over a team like Aberdeen and won a Cup Winners' Cup against Real Madrid. The only time Real Madrid have lost a European final, by the way. They beat Real Madrid. They beat the biggest club in the world in a European final. Aberdeen, let's not forget. They won 3 Scottish League titles. You know how difficult it is to win a Scottish League title without being Celtic or Rangers? That's practically unheard of. Pep Guardiola's achievements come nowhere near as close to Sir Alex Ferguson's achievements. And this whole thing of, oh, but Pep's done it better. Pep's got 98 points. Sir Alex Ferguson's treble team got 79 points or whatever it was. Back then, a Premier League team winning the league with 79 points was the norm. Arsenal won it with a similar amount of points the season before. They won a double, by the way. Manchester United won it for a similar amount of points the season before, and the season before that. It was between 76 and 82 points where you could win a league title in a 38-game season. That's how difficult it was to win a league title back then. And this thing of Sir Alex Ferguson being a money manager, being a checkbook manager, and Manchester United being a money club, that is again absolute bollocks. Yes, they broke the transfer record a few times. I'm not disputing that. But so too did Liverpool in the 90s. Liverpool, Newcastle and Blackburn Rovers all outspent Manchester United in the 90s at some point, towards the end of the decade in particular. And let's not forget that Blackburn Rovers got promoted and relegated in the Premier League era as well. So obviously that kind of counts them out. But over the period of the decade, Manchester United were at the very highest, the 3rd highest spenders in the league, with Newcastle and Liverpool being higher spenders than them. A lot of the players that they had in their team were a bunch of kids as well, so let's not forget that. Sir Alex Ferguson built a team around a group of kids and some big names like Eric Cantona and Peter Schmeichel. The level of disrespect Sir Alex Ferguson gets by millennials and these Twitter versions, right, is an absolute disgrace. You can't compare what somebody did 20 years ago to what somebody is doing now, because football is different, eras are different, technology is different. People just need to just get that out of their heads. Let's only judge Pep Guardiola as the greatest manager of all time, if he actually is, when he actually retires, because he could win a Champions League this season and not win another league title for the next 15 years of his career. Like when Jose Mourinho in 2015 won a league title with Chelsea, everybody thought it'd be the start of another English revolution. It didn't happen, and Jose has not won a league title since, so let's just get that out there. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video, a little bit of a rant there. I'm getting tired of the disrespect that Ferguson gets, to be quite honest with you. I think it's very disrespectful, and I just think that Pep Guardiola, as brilliant as a manager he is, has still got a lot to prove. He's still got longevity. He's still got to win a league title on a budget. He's still got to rise from the ashes and win a league title or a Champions League. Things that Sir Alex Ferguson has done in his career. Things that Jose Mourinho has done in his career. And yes, Jose Mourinho had a lot of money at Chelsea and Madrid, but he won a Champions League with Inter Milan and he won a Champions League with Porto. And that still betters anything that Pep's ever done. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this little rant. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it. I'll be doing a few more videos over the next few weeks as promised. Have a great rest of your night. I'm going to edit this and try and enjoy the rest of the football. So, take care. Ta-ra.